Welcome to Lady Geek Live with me, Meredith Loughran. My special guest today is professional illustrator and full-time artist in the... Hey you guys, this is Meredith Loughran. Sorry about the break in my intro. That was the wrong one, and I just wanted to make sure that I had the proper intro. Before I invite my special guest in, this is a special episode of Lady Geek Live, and it is a subject that is not an easy one to talk about. It is about bullying, my own experience, and why I am pushing so hard to help promote this one project. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Some backstory. I am the oldest of four, and as the oldest, I had I was basically the boss, you know. What I did was, that was it. I was the boss. I was a bossy sister, often not a very nice one, but I was strict, and I had a lot of responsibility in my own mind of when I was a child. But it was when I started school that I noticed how different I was. And it wasn't because I felt different. It was because I was made to feel different. I was bullied and teased. In my head, and I don't know how correct this is, but in my head, it felt like my entire school career, from elementary school through basically the middle of high school. And there was a lot of things. I'm half Korean, so I had, I was called slanty eyes. I had glasses in the third grade, so that I was four eyes, and I was short. I was fat. I was not coordinated. Whatever it was, my name wasn't Jennifer. It was, my name was Meredith, and it was, even that was like back in the 70s. It's like, well, isn't that a guy's name because the football player Don Meredith? Meredith wasn't a popular name. So I had all of these things that just felt like it was going against me. And again, I didn't realize how different I was until I entered school. And kids are mean. And for me, I probably could have gone one of two ways. I've become the person that I am today because of the choices that I've made upon self-reflection and growth, or I've had my dark days where I don't think that I would ever pull the trigger or hang myself, but suicide was a very real thing because of the bullying, because I felt disassociated from my peers, and it wasn't very accepting. And thank God for really close friends who kind of pulled me through, and we were kind of going through it. I mean, so, I see movies like The Breakfast Club, and I was the weird girl, mashing Captain Crunch in her sandwich and doing weird things like that. And it wasn't until I was in my mid-30s where I was assessed with Asperger's. So I'm being very real with you guys here. And a lot of people, when they get that assessment, because there isn't a true diagnosis for Asperger's, it's just your level of competency and coping with your social environment that kind of puts you on a range in this scale. And so I was in my mid-30s, and I was assessed with Asperger's, and I cried because it was such a relief. I'm like, oh, there's an excuse for why I'm weird. There's an excuse for why I was treated the way I was. And in a way, it... from that, I think I was able to forgive and kind of compartmentalize those things, but it didn't make the journey any easier when I was younger. And it wasn't until I was in the middle of 10th grade where I was like, you know what? Fuck you people. Fuck you mean people who are out there, because this is the tiny little world that I live in high school. And in a couple of years, you're not really going to matter to me. You're not going to be in my life. I choose for you not to be in my life. And I choose not to take that negativity and all of the nastiness and all of the hate and whatever it was. And, I'm not going to internalize it anymore. I'm not going to give you the headspace or the real estate in my mind, body, or soul. And so when I found this comic book, it was the most unexpected thing. And it's one of the reasons why I'm advocating so hard for it. And I really, really want to see it succeed. I want to see it hit. I want it to see it hit $1,000, for the third stretch goal. And I'm going to bring Rob on here pretty shortly because he is the creator of this, and this is his passion project. We all have our stories. The only thing I could say is that I had the support of my family and really close friends. My father is the one who really helped me become the person that I am, because he had just this love and belief that humanity was good. And he kind of instilled that in me to give everybody a chance. And they are the ones who will pull away from you. So I don't know. I don't know where else I can go with that without diving deep and being all about me and probably having ugly tears. I'm not going to do that. But I am going to bring Rob on here and let him introduce himself. Hi, Rob.
Hey, what's going on? How you guys doing today?
Good. I wanted to do a little bit of soul sharing, about my story with being bullied when I was a kid. I know that you were. I also know that Jax is he is autistic.
Not officially, but unofficially, if that makes sense, because he has to go through all these tests. The last neurologist, though, said he's on the spectrum.
And he's not in school yet, right?
No, he's been in school for 2 years. I'm his teacher every day. 7 hours a day, I'm teaching him. And the reason it's not 8 hours as opposed to 7 is you figure lunch and his breaks. So it's about 7 hours of my day. I'm teaching him. He's on his tablet. We started off with one of the school things, but they don't work. It's a school issue thing. So luckily he already had a tablet, so I was able to throw on his program on there, and he can use the touch screen. Smart little kid's having trouble getting with his words. He's very hyper. You've seen him during the program. Sometimes he's just, and I remember he gets that from me. I'll admit the hyperactivity is definitely something I had a problem with. And I was very much a hyper kid who was a smart ass. And it was funny because when I was bullied, I was almost taught to take it from my home life, because I grew up with a sister, and every time I'd win, I'd get in trouble. And it was weird because if I won the fight and she was 2 years older than me, I would get more yelled at than if I lost the fight, And then I had a neighborhood bully who basically bullied me. He was my friend some of the times, and then he bullied me at some emotional issues. I don't mean that disparaging. I mean, the kid really did have some emotional issues. So I'd had that, and it's weird. It's just even talking about bullying, and that's why it's so important to me that we have that conversation. You get this confused culture we're in where, okay, if you hit a bully back, you get suspended. So what's the person supposed to do? Just take it? Because when you tell a teacher you're getting bullied, I had teachers tell me, don't be a rat. What is that? Like, what am I supposed to do? If a kid got hurt bullying me, I got in trouble. If I told on them, I got in trouble. So I was brought up in this culture where no matter what I did, I couldn't win. So I just started taking the beatings. I just started taking the hits. And then I'd still get I'd have my dad, well, I don't get why you don't fight back. And I'm like, because every time someone tells me I should fight back, I get in trouble. And he kind of understood it because it was the track record. My older sister attacked me and I attacked back, I got in trouble.
Because you're the boy.
Yeah, and if I hurt one of the friends at school, I was sent to the principal's office. When I was in elementary school, I got sent to principal's office a lot. Someone had hit me and I'd freak out. And that'd be it. I'd be in the principal's. This one time, you're old enough to remember that. Remember the cement holes that we had, looked like a long pipe that we used to run through? Can't find those anymore. So that was on my playground. This kid was bullying me. Wasn't even in my class. Was pushing me, threatening to basically hurt me. So I started making fun of him so he would chase me. And as we were running to it, I ducked down at the last second. He ran right into it. He got taken out on an ambulance. So I must be like 5 or 6, mind you. This is how young I am. I'm in a principal's office, and they're yelling at me. They even called in my parents, and my dad was there, so I thought I was dead. And I remember going, I don't understand what I did wrong. And they were like, well, you hurt him. I was like, how did I hurt him? Well, you lured him into that. And I'm like, but he was trying to hurt me. Was I supposed to take the beating? I'm telling you, man, my dad didn't say word to me. He realized I had outsmarted the bully and was just whatever, and he even said, he's like, what did my son do? And it was funny. I remembered that, but he told me not to get into fights at school because he kind of knew that I could outsmart them and I would, lead them into dangerous places on purpose. But it was hard being a kid that way. And I'm sure I heard you had Asperger's, and a lot of people have actually suggested I get tested for that. I don't know if I do or don't, but I definitely have trouble always getting along with people and understanding, and we talked about this a little bit today. Everyone wants to be worried about their feelings as opposed to act with this one pair. It's killing me. We were talking about today, everyone wants to be kid gloves, and I just can't do kid gloves. It's just not in my gear. If you inspire me and you do good things, you'll hear me say very positive things. But you do something dumb or something's not lining up, I'll be the first one, nope, that don't work. Because I just don't have that, oh, well, honey, if you tried differently and maybe not be so stupid, you wouldn't have stupid problems.
Yeah.
I always joke that if I did a Southern accent, I could just say anything I wanted. People think it'd be a compliment.
Well, aren't you precious?
Yeah, it's like, you about as sharp as a rock, son.
Yeah. And see, for me, I suffered in silence. I had stomach aches, I had stress, I had dark thoughts. That's kind of like where my love of writing came from, because I couldn't go out and do the things in my head that I wanted to do. And with me, it was always like I had to think about what happened first. And it was always later on at night that I had the best comebacks, but it was too late. So that was just so frustrating for me. And I mean, I cried more days. And it got to a point where I was just so sensitive. Like the first day or the first week of school was terrible, because none of the teachers knew how to say my last name, and, so it would be like Bully, Burley, Boule. And I'm like, it's Bewley. How hard is that? My maiden name. And, you would hear the kids laughing. And at that point, I was just so conditioned to be like, okay, this is going to be a really sucky year. It's happening again. That I would just burst into tears. And of course, that would make you a target all over again. It's like, oh, the girl that cried on the first day of school because somebody called her name wrong. It was just so horrible. And it, again, there was that switch in me where I stopped feeling sorry for myself and I started getting mad. And it wasn't mad at people. It was just mad at the situation. Like I knew that it was something that time would heal. And I just had to be patient. So that's kind of that switch where I was like, screw you. You're not going to be in my life in a couple of years. I just have to hold on to that until that time, where I don't have to see you ever again. And my life will be so much better for it. And because when you're in school, you are stuck in this little tiny society that you have no control over. And so you have to make do. You have to survive any way you can. And a lot of people, I think, that's why they strike out the way they do. For me, I have my own thoughts about, like, when my kids were in school. My youngest is 21. He's going to be 22 in August. When they were in school, they started doing things in sports like everybody gets a trophy, whether you win or lose. And I'm like, I I fought against that. I was like, that's so wrong. And they're like, how can you do that? You're hurting the children. Oh, they're going to have to go through therapy. I'm like, you know what? If my kids can't take it from me, the sarcasm, the wit, the comebacks and things like that, if they can't take it from me, they're not going to survive this world, period. And I said, second of all, if everybody wins a trophy, nobody knows how to handle disappointment. And so I thought, you're taking away a really important lesson in handling these situations. So when you are bullied and when you're dealing with these conflicts and things like that, if you don't know how to divert and use your brain, instead of being like, oh, you win a trophy because you just showed up, I'm like, that's wrong. That's not even right in the real world. And that's my opinion. You can send me hate mail. I'm okay with that. So when diverting back to your book, when I read the book, first of all, I was struck by the really strong colors. And I said this earlier in my in the intro. I'm just going to pop this in the overlay here. Bold colors, bold lines, and a bold story. All right, CatDad and SuperMom and Loughran never forgets. And Rob, if you could just kind of speak about the story, where it came from, and I know that you've got a video for it too.
Yeah, the video is on the Kickstarter. The story itself comes from the original release, which is Jack's the Andersin, which we released years ago, actually, all the way back in 2017. It was supposed to go to a bigger project that we were all going to get together and talk about our kids in a comic book. That was supposed to launch it, and then Jax would walk around a Comic-Con and meet all these different people, and they would all tell stories, or he'd overhear a story while he was walking. Unfortunately, like some things that happen, you don't get that book always made. So what wound up happening was that we wanted to continue to the story when Raheel had seen what I did a few years later, and he's like, you know, can I work on it with you? Because he was really excited about it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing anything with it. And I've always wanted to expand on these two characters I created. And it was CatDad and SuperMom. And he was like, yeah, I definitely want to do that. Let me check it out. Let me see what we could do. We did this 2-page origin story. It went really well. We liked working with each other. And then we were like, yeah, let's green light this. So I brought on Chuck, and I suddenly hit a wall. Creatively, I hit a wall. I must have written that script, one script, and going back over and churning it about 10 to 15 times. And part of it was the fact that I was forced into making the character Loughran. Because on a live stream like this, I said there's no such thing as writer's block. And the ironic thing is I never had a problem with writing her character. I always knew what I wanted to do with her character. And I think we really nailed it, and so have a lot of people thought that. The problem I had was the interaction on how to weave it. And Chuck and me have talked about this. No one script was bad. Every script I gave in, Chuck even said, it's good, but no one loved it. I didn't get that, and that's a big thing for me. If I ask you to read a script and you go, oh, it's good, Rob, I know I did something wrong, because I haven't hit you to talk to me. You're answering quickly. You just want out of the conversation. I'm losing. So I went back for 6 months, and we delayed the book for 6 months just waiting for the right script. And it came to me. And when it came to me, I knew it. I handed it to Chuck, and I started all over. I got rid of the old script, started all over. Took the key elements, put them back in, but reworded everything. Handed it to Chuck, and I said, this is it. He was like, yeah, you're right. This is it. A few changes here and there, and then we're on our way. And there were aspects of it, like where we added the official, like the one other thing I always hated growing up, and I know you'll agree with me on this, is words don't hurt you. Sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you. And I've always disagreed with that. And even as a kid, I remember hearing about the Chinese whispers that started the war. And I'm like, so wait, I thought words can't hurt you. So one of my favorite moments, and really I just made this entire comic book for this moment, a train that actually is words. It actually spells out words. That is the whole point of the train. And it hits SuperMom, proving once and for all that words do hurt you. And that was like the whole process of the book. So this was all about a way to teach morals in a fun way. I wanted it to be like Looney Tunes, where Looney Tunes invited the whole family to sit down and have a conversation and enjoy it. So that's what we did. We made something that was funny for everybody. and we wanted everyone to enjoy what we were doing. So that's what we did. We made something the whole family could enjoy. I have people who are adults now without kids who love it and want to buy more books to give to other people. And it's an amazing thing to hear that. I've had little kids, a little girl come up to the table and cry. And I'll say this, girls get bullied a lot worse than the boys do. And this is coming from a boy who was bullied. And yeah, boys might get more physical bullying, but a girl gets a lot more emotional bullying. So I've noticed that the girls, they'll come to the table, and I've had one girl who's crying and wanted a hug from me. Of course, I got the parents' permission, and there's of course a little bit of an awkwardness because you don't want to, they're not your kid, but you could tell in that moment, just human to human, she just wanted a hug, and she wanted a hug because someone got her. She finally felt like someone not only got her, but had gone through it, had survived it, and is now on the other side of it. And they're talking about it, and they're making it so she could hand that book to her friends and be like, this is how I feel. And that's a powerful moment. I know I got that from comics. Let me tell you, when I read the X-Men, and it was helping me to learn to read because I was very dyslexic, I had somewhere to escape. And the fact that I now know that I'm giving that escape to other people and reaching out to them and making them feel represented in a world that makes sense to them, and it actually teaches something, I think that's powerful. And that's the whole reason we went back, because I didn't get that until that last script. And that last script, I knew it. I'd found it. I'd found that pitchfork moment where it was perfectly tuned. And I was like, this is the story. And I have honestly, amazingly, not had anyone give a bad review about it. Nothing. I mean, everyone who sees it's like blown away by the fact that it's not distributed by some big company. And this is just independent creators doing this because they're not used to that level. And that's a total credit to Raheel, total credit to Chuck, who kept us going as the editor. And I'll give credit to myself as the writer. I didn't accept anything that wasn't the best it could be for you. I don't think I could make the story any better. I think we landed in a perfect place, and anything switched at any moment would have ruined it. And I mean, we were arguing over words. That's how much this mattered to us, that one word could be an argument for about a day until we figured out how we were doing it once we got the lettering process. And it mattered. And getting those right words in place, trust me, they have mattered. And they have gotten, I mean, we won an award. Blown away by that. Because I know the people who were judging it, we didn't expect to win because we were against adult, more contemporary stuff. I expected to win in a popularity contest online because of the anti-bullying. We didn't come close in that one. And then suddenly we won the bigger one. And I was like, wow, like adults really liked it. Like, these are people who were like, didn't have kids, weren't reading it to their kids, loved it. And we're like, that's the best comic I've read. Brian K. Morris just gushes over the fact that this is one of the best books he ever read. And you figure your friends are trying to be nice to you, right? But when they keep saying it and you see that emotion come out of them, and then you hear another friend say it, Richard Rivera had said some great things about it. He writes Stabby Bunny. He's like someone I look up to. He's someone that I go to for advice. And he was like, no, you did it. You know what I mean? And I'll be honest, until that moment, I'd always considered myself an indie creator. But that was the moment. That was it, where I realized I wasn't an indie creator. I was a comic book creator. And this is what I was put on this earth to do. And I'm going to continue to write books. And I'm going to continue to make them great because I know that I can influence people. Even with my other titles, I've had people be like, that's so meaningful to me. So I do have this inherent God-given skill that I'm very lucky to have had, because I get to express things to people and inspire them. And with CatDad and SuperMom, I get to inspire people to feel not alone. And that's, I mean, how does it get any better than that? Someone telling you, wow, that story made me feel better. And especially if it can reach young kids, like you said. I mean, especially now, bullies you don't go home and you're not safe anymore. These bullies follow you home on Facebook. These bullies follow you all. I did a much darker.
They're all on our phones.
Yeah, I had a much darker story for adults in The Fourth Monkey about bullying. And it is bad. It is bad how much, and this is now no longer limited. I get bullied all the time online by people. They just don't understand that. I'm sure you have this, Meredith. Calluses for days. It takes a lot for me to, like, trust me, they'll run away and be reporting me to Facebook if I take them serious with the things I'll say. Because you build up this barrier and people don't understand it. You don't even realize it. It's this defense mechanism, and you're set on, like everyone else is on stun. You're on fucking vaporize. You're on, I'm going to light you up, and there will be no more you. And it's taken a long time, like you said, that healing. Even now, like I had my son, and I can't tell you, my son has made me a better person. And I think that's honestly why that script was never good enough, because I realized I was representing him. In the earlier issue, which we redid for the flip book, we made it more closer to the Jack's way. Because when I first wrote it, it was meant for him, and he was like 2 or 3. So we do still have that, and I could always re-release it with some changes. But when we updated it, we made it more contemporary. But I remember even going back then and looking, and I was like, no, for a very basic kid's book, this was fine. But the one thing you don't want to do with a kid's book is talk down. There are certain ones you have to. 2 to 3-year-olds, you definitely have to talk down to a little bit. And that's for a simple reason, language. You're just trying to teach them very basic language. You're not trying to express deep thoughts. But the older you get, the more you are. I mean, I'm amazed by what my son actually knows when I'm seeing him do all this schoolwork in front of me. And, and Mondays are the worst day because we got our new lesson plan, and it's always a fight. But I don't know if you got to see it, but on today during his class plan, we had a virtual trip to Disney. So I was like, you went to Disney, buddy, when you were like really young. And I pulled up a video of him going when he met Mickey Mouse. He was, at that point, he had to be just about November. So he was about 9 months, 10 months. He runs over to, he's carried over a little bit because he's semi-walking, goes over to Mickey. And you know those animated Mickeys at Disney World where the mouths actually talk too and all that? It's not just a face that's blank. This thing's eyes move and stuff. Kids were freaking out, and I'm like, oh, God, he's going to freak. He's going to see this thing. He's going to freak out. I was like, oh, no. And so he sees it, and he locks eyes with it, and he goes, and he winds up trying to run over. His mom takes him over there, and he's giggling the whole time, thinks it's hysterical. And then Mickey's got his nose right on his nose. So all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the little kid just goes to bite it. And that's just the personality of my son. Very inventive person. And when they talk about autistic kids, I had dated someone earlier in my life who had an autistic son. And he was, he was a solid kid. He was a good kid. And I saw he was lost in his imagination. So when I saw my own son having the symptoms like that, you have that moment. And I was never ashamed. And I want to put that out there. That I never will be ashamed of my son having autism. I'm sure he'll do something to make me ashamed. All kids do. But I won't be ashamed for that. I was ashamed at the world that he was going to be growing up in because I knew he would be bullied. We've gone out, and I remember this one time during the holiday, this guy walks over to the table, and he's not a loud kid, but he's a little hyper. He jumps around. We go to this one place around here all the time. They're very sweet to us. So this guy comes over, and he's got that, like the Brooklyn, like, hey, so you think we'll enjoy hearing your kid? And I was like, I'll be honest with you, buddy. I think you enjoy saying this in the middle of a restaurant, because if we weren't inside of a restaurant and I didn't care about the people here and we were outside, you wouldn't be talking anymore. Oh, he's like, is that so? I was like, yeah, buddy. You wouldn't have a jaw working anymore. If you talk about my son anymore, I'm going to stop caring that we're in the middle of a restaurant. And I remember the staff looked, and they all came up and they gave us stuff. They were giving
us, is this going to be a problem?
Because they saw how much of a just rude. There was no need for it. The guy wasn't even close. Like, he came to pick on a little kid, and he didn't realize how big I am. Because it happened to be one of those days when I was wearing this and Jax was jumping around. And you could tell when he saw me, because I've got the wide shoulders. I've got, I don't look like someone you want. And I think he thought I was smaller than I was, because even the staff came over and said, he looks scared on his way out, like you were going to track him down. But it's just how rude people can be. And I'm sure, like Meredith, you want to just jump up and punch them. But I realized one simple thing. If I ever punch someone in front of my son, I'm going to teach him a horrible lesson. And he's never going to get over that, because he's always going to see. So I try to use, in that moment, I used what I had, the truth, that he was being an undecent person because he thought he could get away with it. He thought he could run his mouth in a place and I would be back down from it. And I just pointed out the truth to him. And sometimes when you tell the truth about someone, that's enough to get him to shut up, because he knew. But there are ugly people. Oh, my goodness. Every day on social media, there are people who just, and that they're just looking for it because you ask one question and they don't know how to answer you. I've had people be like, well, you're stupid. And I'm like, why am I stupid? They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, explain it to me. I'm too stupid to understand. Please elaborate. And they're like, well, I'm not going to play these games with you. And I'm like, but I'm stupid. I need the extra help.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, and I've learned that.
I love that. I love that. I mean, I actually, I had interactions like that with my mom, actually, because I mean, it was a complicated relationship. I love my mother. But, you know, a lot of times it was just so negative. It was like whatever's coming out of her mouth is negative. Especially when I became a mother, I was just like, I was doing everything wrong in the book. And I just, you know, when people are like that, when they, it's just negative. And I don't know if they feed off the energy or anything. I love you, Mom. I really do. It was one of those things where I had to disassociate myself from that because I didn't really have a choice and just agree. You know, so instead of me, you know, I never had the violent part of it. I do in my brain, and that's why I write the stories that I do. But when it came to just dealing with people on a one-on-one basis, I would just agree because I didn't believe it. Again, I didn't put the real estate. I didn't give them the real estate in me, in my head, my heart, or my soul to take me down. And it was just like, you know what? For this one moment in time. And again, I think it's that patience thing that I learned. For this one little moment in time, I'm just going to agree with you. So you can call me an asshole. You can call me a bitch. You can call me every word in the book. You can say I'm wrong about everything. And you know what? I'm just going to agree because it doesn't hurt me to agree with you and take the argument away. And at the end of the day, I'm not walking away feeling like, oh my God, she called me all these things. Oh. You know, it wasn't like that at all. And I found strength in that because it was at that point I had to rebuild my self-confidence and realize that nobody else is living in my skin but me. Nobody else gets real estate inside but me, and unless I give them permission. And you know, so I choose to stop the negativity. And you know, I think Brian K. Morris even said it earlier. You know, he will slay you in fiction, and I will too. It's just that easy, but it's the way I escape from the negativity because I don't need that in my life. I don't want to give it energy. I don't want to help it grow. And so yes, your website here, CatDad and SuperMom, and you have an amazing video. We're going to do a screen share of your Kickstarter video because I read the story. I have the PDF already. And then you sent me an early preview of it. And I was like, oh my God, take my money, because there was something about it. And you've said it several times already, honesty. There is honesty in the video. There's honesty in the story. And the reason, and I am mystified why this hasn't actually trended or taken off harder and faster than it is. And this is why, one of the reasons why we're doing this, because I want more people to know. I want my audience to know that this is a tough subject, and you are speaking about it so honestly and so clearly that adults can read it, grandparents can read it to the little ones, kids can read it, and even if they're not quite able to read, they're going to enjoy the pictures, and they're going to understand, you know, the superhero aspect, and they're going to see, you know, the farting elephant, and you know, so there are these elements in there that that make it fun, but you see the difference within the story between the reality, the dream, and then how he deals with a difficult situation. So I'm going to pull that up here, and hopefully we can.
Do you want me to hit play?
Yeah, go ahead, please do.
An all-ages tale that teaches morals with farts and shows the power of imagination that will entertain everyone in your family, including the parents reading the book. Thank you for hitting play and allowing us to introduce you to CatDad and SuperMom, the award-winning Farts with morals, storytelling, awesome adventure that people seem to love. And we could keep going that way. We could use words that could try to get you to be excited and convinced to buy it, but I'd rather just be honest with you. I'd rather be humble with you and tell you why I created the story. You see that little boy over my shoulder, right over there, and the other side, SuperMom, and the big elephant that farts? All of that is based on my boy. He's a special needs 5-year-old who I love with all my heart. And he has made me a better man and has taught me what unconditional love is. So if this story is about him, the standard had to be higher. That's why I got one of the best artists in the world in Raheel Mohsin. I got Chuck Pino, who has done such great work as an editor and as a writer himself, to be part of this. Both of them became co-creators because of how much passion went into this. It was about passion for creating a top-notch story that was meant to entertain your entire family, and I think we did that. The rest, they're all keywords. They're all ways to convince you to do it. Truthfully, this is a story that matters to me, and it had to be one of the best stories that I wanted to share with you. It advocates for people who get bullied, and it advocates for the right things to do when you see someone get bullied. It advocates for being a better human being, but it also represents my son. And because of that standard, because of the fact that my son is in this book, it had to be one of the best things I could create probably in my entire career. Anytime my son is attached to something, it is that high of a standard for me. So if you're looking for a reason to back this Kickstarter, it's because, well, because I love my son, and I wouldn't put anything out with his name on it that wasn't amazing. Thank you for watching, sharing, and backing CatDad and SuperMom, and Ella Fart never forgets.
And that's the brutal honest. I remember when I talked to Chuck about it, I was like, Chuck, I want to do something no one's ever done with the Kickstarter video. And he's like, what are you talking about? I was like, I want to be honest. You know, I don't want to beg for money. I just want to tell them why it's important to me. I want to just step up and be like, hey, here it is. You know, and that's 2 a.m, and that's me being very honest and just talking about my son and thinking about my son the whole time. You know, taking off my glasses so you could see my eyes the whole time, and I'm trying to force myself, because I have an Apple screen, so it's all the way up here, the actual, so I'm staring up there the whole time, trying to keep my eyes open, and it's awkward because when you're doing that, when you're being so honest and it's just you in a room, you're not talking to anyone, you know, you're like, I sound like an idiot. I sound like an idiot. And you can't get it out of your head until you start, you know, and I thought about my son a lot. I thought about why this mattered. I thought about the little girl who was crying to me, and it started to click, and I started to get more comfortable. And then I just was like very honest. And I remember there are a couple people who were like, I never even realized you were that kind of person. And I was like, what's that supposed to mean? They're like, you are very, you know, thoughtful. Like, you're not just this loud mouth of, you know, rough, tough guy. You actually have emotions. I was like, what's funny is the fact that everyone thinks I don't. Yeah. That's always the assumption, because I have a deep voice. I understand what people make of me. And it's funny when people get to know me and they're finally like, you know, you get past your growly voice and you suddenly start hearing you. You don't mean anything the way it sounds. It's everyone's being a little more sensitive about it. And I'm like, that's life, right? We all judge each other so quickly. I treat those around me very well, and I always treat them how I want to be treated, and I always support people. It's how I got the moniker of the indie advocate, even though I prefer to be called a comic book advocate, because that is about inclusiveness. Comic books don't care about your color, your skin, your political background, your idealisms. All they care about is being read. And that's why I love comic books, because they give escape to everyone. And it's always about the audience. Is the audience entertained? And I've had people message me after seeing that video. I had someone tell me that they broke down in tears because it was that raw. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize it. And I was like, I'm sorry. And they're like, no, don't be. They said it's unique and genuine, rare that there are someone out there being so genuine on their video. Because, you know, I've done a couple of videos and I've tried to, you know, be the salesman, but I don't think I'm going to do that anymore, because I think that it's just going to be an experience between me and you as the fans, as the readers, as the potential readers. That's got to be our relationship. And I got to be honest with you. This is who I am. You know, I'm not the Porsche. I'm a little bit beat up and dinged, but I'll get you there, and I'm going to get you there in style. And that's basically all I can do. And, you know, with this story, I am so thrilled to have worked with Chuck, who did an amazing job of not only editing, and editing doesn't even cover it, because he was, you know, a lot of editors would have said, no, you got it. This is fine, this story. And when I wanted to trash it, would have tried to talk me into it, so it would have been less work. Instead, he said, no, I think maybe you can do better. And that meant a lot. And then he was very instrumental in helping guide the two of us, Raheel and myself, because we were very passionate. And when you get two passionate people about something together, small little things become mountains. And it's, you know, it's definitely a bunch of, I'm not going to move. I'm the writer. My words inspire him. And he's over there going, nope, I'm not drawing that. Good luck with your words. I hope the words will look pretty in that panel. And then you get Chuck, who comes in, looks at it from both points of view, goes, okay, let's talk about it this way, and let me show you different things. Chuck didn't take sides. He took the side of the story, and that's super important. And that's the type of relationship. That's why I trust Chuck, because it's rare that you can find a person who will agree with you openly and disagree with you just as quickly and just as openly and not try to save your feelings. Chuck is not someone who ever goes, you know, not to offend you, I don't want to upset you. He's like, no, Rob, you're an idiot. That doesn't work. Stop it. You know, there was a joke I wanted to say where Ella Fart sees CatDad for the first time, and I wanted her to look over and be like, what are you doing, pussy? And I wanted it to be like pussy cat, and he was being scaredy cat and all that. And Chuck's like, nope. I was like, what if I say pussy cat? Nope.
It doesn't carry the story forward. It doesn't help.
Like, you don't understand that. That's your rating right there. You just lost your all ages. It's like, is that joke that important? And then before I could answer, he said, don't even answer that. I can see your face. We're not doing it. And I was like, okay.
But see, that is so important, because you found somebody that you have built that relationship on. You know, that takes a lot of trust, because as a writer myself, it's really hard for me to send my baby out to people and just say, you know what, tear it apart, but do it with love and do it with a little respect. You know, because if I send it out to people, it's because I trust them and I can learn from them. You know, I don't just put pieces out there for whether it's a beta read or anything like that for people to just tear down or blow smoke up my ass. I really don't like that. And I think part of that is the tougher skin that we've all developed, probably from our childhood, probably from those tough days where we can take it and deal with it a little better than a lot of other people who maybe they just want to be lied to. I don't know. But I mean, unfortunately, I think when you see a lot of projects, maybe it's a flash in the pan and they disappear really quickly because they didn't want to listen. You know, so they have a one-off and lightning will not strike twice. You know, because maybe they didn't do the work. Maybe they didn't want to listen. And then maybe through those relationships, you know, it soured the milk a little bit. So I think there's a certain amount of humbleness that comes with it. And when I watched the video for the first time and I saw the bye, I was like, what the hell is that? And I had to wait a minute for you to get past that. And when you put the book down and we saw the eyes, I was just like, now you've got me.
And it was kind of making, and it was because we do the Kickstarter pause, and it's one of the things I can't stand is when people use inflated words to try to, you know, I don't get to tell you how the book is. I think it's great. I believe in it. I believe it into my very DNA. It's all the way inside me that I believe in this story. But my job is to get you to believe, not to tell you how I perceive the book or even how anyone else does. Yeah, I'll tell you some people really like the book, and I'll brag about it because it touches my heart. But I'm never going to tell you that for you it's going to be awesome. You get to determine that. And as you're looking on the screen here, that's actually a character that our artist, Raheel Mohsin, came up with. I didn't want this character. I didn't need this character. And he was like, no, I really think it'll matter. And I remember...
The narrator.
Yeah. And I remember being like, well, we don't really need him. I was like, but if we're going to have him, let's do it the right way. He's got to fit right. So I got involved as the writer. And because he was the artist, and he didn't do a bad job writing it, but he needed some changes, narratively, I don't know, so narratively, we'll put it. He's from India. So there is a different speech there. And there is an Indian version of this where he did take some words he thought would flow better there versus the American issue. And he's in charge of our international division, and we're charged, and me and Chuck are in charge together of the American version. But there was definitely some disconnect here. And I'm like, I'm telling you, this isn't going to be the American audience. They're not going to get it. They're going to be, you don't want to remove. The worst thing you could do in anything is, comic book wise, is to make someone stop being in that realm of disbelief, and they're just enjoying it. And so that was where Chuck came in so well. He did say, and he's like, no, I promise you it's going to be this way. And we sent this out to beta readers, and we got beta reader notes back, and he sent it out to beta readers, and the beta readers came back, and we made adjustments. We listened to you fans. Where there were small adjustments needed, we took them, and we dealt with them. We changed something. We altered it. And we got the best book we could for you. And even with the rewards, I'm not doing a lot. So I do want to point this out. If you guys, for $1, you get something. You get the original 2-page preview I was telling you that me and Rahil did. But for just that was for $1, by the way. For $2, for just $2, you get the entire PDF. This isn't a 20-page story. The comic itself is 32 pages. So you're going to get a 28-page story for you and your family to enjoy. And here's the thing. I'm committed. It ends on Mother's Day. The day after Mother's Day, you guys are going to get a PDF copy of the book to already read. Not waiting for Kickstarter to get me the funds. It's looking good right now. Things are starting to open up. We don't know what next week's going to bring. Everything's still too new. So I did push the shipping dates to further down the year because I don't know. And I didn't want anyone being mad at me. Our goal is to already talk to the printer. The minute we fund, we're already going to be on the phone with the printer. We're going to ask them. We're going to send them over PDF files. And we're going to work with them so they can print it before we pick it up. And I'll be honest, this is when we're going to have the money more than likely from Kickstarter. Or I might even go out of my own pocket if I ever get that stimulus check they keep talking about. I'll take it out of that. I'll print it, and I'll try to get it out to everyone as soon as possible. We wanted to make sure everyone had the book immediately. So this Monday, because Mother's Day is Sunday, on Monday, all those PDFs will go out to every backer, and every backer gets a PDF something. So if you got $1, you're getting that two thing. If you got $1, you're going to get the 2-page story. If you're $2, you get the digital copy of CatDad and SuperMom. $3 gets you that Jack's books we're talking about, and the actual amazing CatDad and SuperMom story put together. CatDad and SuperMom for $5. That's an in-depth digital. But now here, so we have the $10 standard cover. This is going to be the 32-page. This is our award-winning cover right here. And then you notice we have an alternate cover. How many Kickstarters have the alt covers the same price? I'm not charging you more for an alt cover. I think that's ridiculous, unless it's limited. And we're not making limited. I didn't want to do that. I understand we're all going through something very traumatic right now. I might make them limited after we print it. I might decide that this becomes a collector's item when this Kickstarter is done, but I wasn't going to, no bells and whistles, no nothing. The closest thing to a collector's item that we do offer, and you can see, and we'll look at that actually, just give it to credit real quick. This just came out. This is our new cover that just came out from, you saw this during our conversation after the show a few hours earlier. But that's beautiful. And it's a different take on CatDad and SuperMom, and I like that. Different artists are starting to they look at it and they go, this is kind of fun. And I've had different versions of all these characters, and I've never had that before. I have artist friends just sending me stuff, and I'm like, that's amazing. That's how Josh did this art, and I'm like, dude, it can't just be a nothing art. You can't just do this to be nice, and we not do something with it. Can I make it a cover? And he's like, sure. And I was like, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get you 10 copies. And I'm going to let you have 10 copies. But anytime you want a copy, you talk to me. Whenever I go to print, you can buy more. If you need a print file, you can go print your own. I was like, the only thing that you can't do, obviously, is change it in any way, shape, or form. And you can't sell it to Nickelodeon. You have to have me involved with that. But if I'll tell you the truth, if his cover is the reason Nickelodeon's talking to us, he'll get a piece of that. He'll get a piece because he was brought to I don't care. He just did a cover. He brought that attention. And with them being co-creators, that's what I do. I'm not a money person. I'm horrible at money because I always look at it like I can make more tomorrow. It doesn't matter. I'll give my last $1 to someone and figure out a way to make $1 tomorrow. What I'm more interested in fans, to inspire fans. Like I've been trying to get people to back just $1 because that $1 I can get them that 2-page story and I can get them hooked. I'll tell you, the people who read the 2-page story have come back to buy the book, almost at 95%. There are so few, and the ones who didn't buy it just did not want a comic because I handed them out at a Comic-Con, and I had people coming back with it, and they actually tried to give it back to me, the actual printout to back to me so I could give it to someone else. I was like, no, I got 100 of them. You're good. I'm good. Thank you. Thank you. And they had me sign them. The printed copy they had me sign. They took something with no value to them and must have read it at some point and came back and it became valuable. I knew I was doing something right. So but I didn't want to take that value out on you guys. The biggest things we have are the CatDad rare printing, and that's because we only printed 100. That was a beta issue. It's very rare. I am putting it a little bit more, and that's considering how it's sold in the award. 20 is fair for it. But you can get it even cheaper if you get the collector's pack. You get the flip book, which is a 50-page book for $20, and then that's a package for adults. We're not going to talk about that tonight. You guys can look at it. It's a hidden reward. The CatDad covered. This is new. You get all the covers. Now we expect to hit 1,000. Honestly, we're going to hit 1,000. I just feel that you guys aren't going to let me down. I can feel it. You're going to come and rally for me. You've already gotten me to 800. I know we're going to get the rest of the way. I appreciate all of you.
You've got 5 days left, and it's you're 187 short for reaching this. This is your third tier, right? Now, wasn't there a special cover or something? Or not the third tier. This is the third stretch goal
that we've achieved. Yeah, we've gotten this one. We got this one. The second one was that, and check this out. So I wanted to do something. When we hit 600, we hit 500. We got our goal at 300. We hit our first stretch goal at 500. And I was like, you know what? I want to reward people for something simple. Let's do a 600 goal. At 600, everyone who's a physical backer gets this book above the basic level. The basic level of the regular $10. Like if you have anything above the $10 mark, you're getting this for free. This is the original release. It's a 20-page comic book. It's magazine size. Again, limited edition. So we're never printing it again because of, and I'll be honest, because I'm not a bullshitter. I didn't know at the time that Marvel and DC had won the trademark war. They now own Superhero. So I cannot reprint this. I had actually printed it before it became official. So it's in that weird area where they really can't say anything to me. But if I try to print it again, I could be breaking a law. So I changed it to Superhero in the future. If you actually look at it, because I'm a writer, I just went ahead and created a new word. I put an ED at the end of super, and I put super and hero together as one word. So it's Superhero now. So we'll see. I don't think I'll get bothered for it, but you get this just for $2 on any reward level. All the PDFs packages are going to wind up getting them as long as you're above the $2 mark. So I wanted to give something back to people. Then we had the other cover here, which was the Mike Seeley cover. And Mike Seeley, again, another just creator. He actually did a sketch cover for a woman who fell in love with the project, and he did it for her for free. And he wasn't even attached to my project at that point. Someone had asked her to do a stretch cover, and he's like, "Are you okay with me doing that?" I was like, "Yes, absolutely." And we wound up giving her a book with the sketch cover. She already got another book. This was a book on top of a book, and I was like, "Just give it to her." She bought one already.
And I love Elephart. When I was reading through the PDF and everything, it just, for some reason, I could that character Elephart just resonated with me, and I don't even know why. I'm like, am I Elephart? I think I am.
She's a likable character in a lot of ways, though. Like she's probably one of the more complex characters in the entire story. And if I do my job right, you actually feel for her. This is that moment where basically you have Killmonger in Black Panther, where you start going, well, maybe he's right. And if I've done my job right, by the time you get to a certain point in the story, you're like, well, maybe Elefart's not wrong. Maybe what she's doing is justified. And you've read the book, so you know there's that sudden twist that really opens up the reader to a different idea. So, that's one of those things. Hold on a second, real quick. Jax, what's wrong, honey? You okay? You can send him over here, Shorty. He's allowed to come in. Sorry, I heard him screaming. You did what? All right. So yeah, no, I wanted to, that's Mike. This isn't Mike. This is Right Heels cover. But Mike did this stretch cover for that book, and then he came up with this amazing cover for us. And again, his idea of how the characters should look. There's Jax, and we actually have, if you guys noticed, I think we already scrolled past it. You'd think I'd know this better because it's my Kickstarter, but I'm almost certain that Jax picture's up. Yeah. So there's him actually flexing. I'm not kidding with you. Mike didn't know that there was this picture of Jax when he was younger. And for anyone who doesn't watch the live videos, when I use these pictures of him, they're years younger than him on purpose. My family's always asked that I don't have any current pictures of him put on anything marketable. And I've always respected that. My sister doesn't want it. His aunt and his mother don't want anything of him that's of today. And if you'll notice, he does look a little different in his counterpart. And that was also to give him that kind of, this isn't exactly him. And it gives him room to be him. So, but I mean, you hear him in the background. There's our award. So proud of that. And I'm proud. I never thought I'd be proud of awards until I got one and I knew what we were against. I knew the other books in it. And, you're like, did we really just win? Like, against them? Wow. Like, I remember asking someone, are you sure you're not doing this because of me? He's like, no, I like yours the best. They're like, I wish someone else wrote it because I don't like you that much.
See, but that speaks volumes about the book, and again, I just can't stress enough what I said earlier, because I wanted to promote this live stream. So I popped on really quickly and I said, it's bold colors, it's bold lines, it's a bold story. And everybody should read it because there are important lessons in here on doing the right thing and doing things that are hard, but doing them because they're right.
And it's funny, you see this character right here? Let me see. Oh, this one right here. This is Potato Butt.
I love Potato Butt.
And Potato Butt's a funny character because that's actually this doesn't get said in the book. That in the book, it's clear that he's uncle to Jax, and that is said. That's also Jax's godfather, and Jax's godfather, for some reason, called himself Potato Butt one day, and I said, I'm going to use that, and I'm going to put it in a comic book one day. And he was like, what? I'm like, yeah, I for some reason, I'm fascinated by it. And he's like, okay. The conversation with him about a year and a half ago, where I just said, I need you to read this. And he's been my best friend for decades. And he doesn't read any of my comics. And I was like, no. This time I really need you to read it. I really need you to trust me. I consider this one a favorite. So he reads it and he comes back and he's like, so Potato Butt. And I'm like, I told you.
It's so funny. When I saw that, I busted out laughing because when my kids were little, I have 3 boys and, or maybe you didn't know. So I have 3 boys and, the arguments was always, but mom. And one day I had enough and I was like, what'd you call me? And they're like, Mom. I'm like, no, you didn't call me Mom. You called me Butt Mom. And I was like, in my head, I've always had this superhero called Butt Mom, and she's just like all tail and, no muscles up here, but a cape and all this stuff. And so I saw Potato Butt and I was just like, oh my God, and Elefart. And I just fell in love because it's just kind of in line with our humor too. When, we're not getting any younger and it's kind of funny. I'm going to totally out him, probably embarrass him. But like my husband is, he's not getting any younger and he has those days where every step is like, and we joke that it's like this green mist of fart, just emanating in the air. And it's like, oh, do I cover up, or do I eat it? So it's just like, it's just that bathroom humor that I absolutely love. And so, I mean, this just appealed to me on so many levels. But again, I just can't stress that I felt the connection before I saw the video. When I saw your video, I was totally hooked. And I was like, I've got to share this out with so many people, with as many people as I can, whether you're a teacher, whether you are, I don't know, I would even say I have friends who are therapists and things like that. It's like, take a chance and read the book and see what you think. And if this could be a tool just to get the conversation going in a fun way. and make it productive. My friend Frank here says eating green mists of farts. He's fucking crying. He knows. We know. We grew up with this kind of humor. And
oh, it's in my mouth. Oh, it's in my mouth. Oh, it's in my mouth. You're well without the mouthwash.
Right? It's like, it's like I can't smell it. I don't want to smell it. I don't want to smell it. And then my father's like, hey, you're eating it now. And it's like, oh, you just don't know what to do. So it's just one of those things. Again, it just appeals to me on so many levels. Rob, we're at an hour. Was there anything else that you wanted to share about this?
Actually, could I read the comments from my actual watch party? I don't think they got through here, and
No, they didn't, and I would love for you to. Yes.
Yeah, anyone who invests time, I want to pay them for that. Sarah said, "Hey there, I was also bullied all through growing up. Bullying can follow someone into their adulthood easily. I never fought back either. Pretend it wasn't happening. And how true is that? Especially again going back to the girl thing. Like, I went to high school and I got my ass kicked." Like it was not friendly. It was not a fair fight. And it was very often. And that left me just completely scarred. And I literally have scars on my body from some of the fights I got into. But in the end of the day, I think that the emotional stuff wasn't as heavy for me. I just got beat up for who I was. It wasn't like they were commenting on my physical looks as much. There was some jokes, but I saw girls get bullied and it was awful. And I always say this, that we're raised as children to be sheeps, to behave and to obey. And anyone who's not in that perfect conformity or a really smart kid, because really smart kids get away with being individuals because they want them to be leaders. If you're not someone scoring high in tests and you're not acting like a sheep, you're instantly a problem child. You're the black sheep. And everyone gets to pick on you. Teachers don't stop it and they allow it. So I totally feel you, and I'm so sorry, Sarah, that you went through that. And you're right. Even at 41 years old, just this last year, I dealt with a lot of my stuff. And I realize now, like I said earlier, if I hit anyone in front of Jax, unless I'm protecting him, he'll never be the same. If he sees me do it when I protect him, then I've taught him a valuable lesson. But if I can walk away from it, I just have to. My ego cannot become before the safety of my child or anyone around me. It's simply not worth it. But you have to go through such hell to understand this. And you have people like, well, I never got bullied. I don't see why it's a big deal. That's because, that'd be like saying, I don't know why murder is a big deal. I haven't been shot. Like, it is a big deal. That's why so many people talk about it. And we didn't talk about this, but this story isn't directly about bullying. It's about what you do when you see someone get bullied. Something in our society we don't talk enough about. Something about that we forget to tell other people about. Like, hey, if you see this, you should also step up. That way, it's not just a person saying it, but it's someone else, and then something can be taken, like an action can be taken from it. And then we had Teresa Dunn saying hi, and she said, Teresa, what did Teresa say? She said, I was abused as a child and bullied in school. Wrote poetry expressions because I was bullied. And, that's powerful. Like, I got lost in words too, obviously. And I a lot of the stuff I write, and it's not intentional, it's just who I am. I even advocate in my writing. If you look back at everything I've written, there's someone I'm standing up for in the way I'm writing. And I think a lot of comic book creators do that with our superheroes and trying to defy things that we're going after. Sarah came back to say words are brutal and can shape the way someone views themselves throughout their life. I definitely wanted to get a physical copy of CatDad and SuperMom eventually. No doubt about it. Well, thank you, Sarah. And she said, I am proud of how far you've come. Andersin, Rob, seriously, mind blown and inspired. Can't wait to read it. Major hugs and love. I'm sorry that happened to you. Much love, Teresa. And yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for both of you. Anyone who ever gets bullied, the one thing I being bullied, yes, a little bit will get you a little stronger. Life's not simple, but we let it go too far. We let certain kids get bullied a lot. And then when those kids snap and everyone's like, well, why did they come back to shoot up the school? And I'm not condoning school violence here, but we go back to that school and everyone's like, yeah, they were pretty miserable. They were always bullied. The whole school was picking on them. Like, And it's like back to that Eminem song. You want to blame it on Marilyn, but no one, Marilyn Manson, in other words. You want to blame it on you want to blame it on video games. You want to blame it on rappers, heavy metal music, but you don't want to blame it on society that is making these people feel so lonely. So, I've been bullied, and like you were talking about earlier, you go to those dark places. Well, why should I be alive if no one likes me? I'm so different. Why should I be here? What point is it? I'm never going to be like them. I'm never going to be just one of those puppets. I can't like what they like. They're stupid. I don't understand it. And you're so different. You're so alone. And it takes time. It takes time to find the people who hear you. And for a lot of creators especially, because we have that creative mind, we see the world differently. I mean, we're literally taking everything in and then spitting it back out. And when we're spitting it back out, you're seeing the world as we see it generally. We're bringing our problems out, and we're telling you about them. And that's why sometimes you get writers who people resonate with and go, wow, oh my God, I completely understand. The Matrix, so much of The Matrix was like mind-blowing, because how many of us haven't suddenly stopped and looked around and been like, is this real life? Like, am I really doing this? Is this really happening right now? Is this it? Is this what life is? Like, what the fuck? Please tell me there's more. And, it's just one of those ways. So that's why I write the way I do, because even as an adult, and I've had adults tear up over this book, literal adults be like, that is beautiful. I really appreciate you. And you talked about a therapist. The therapist bought 5 copies of the book and told me she's going to test it for a year and get back to me. And I should actually be hearing from her or sometime in early fall. She was excited about the message. And she was going to pay full price for the book. She's like, oh, how much are they? And I told her how much. And this was the limited copy. And I'm like, you don't have to, I was like, that's how much one is, but I'll give it to you all for this amount. And she was, no, I want to pay you more, but I wouldn't accept it because that's not who I am. She was trying to do something. So one of the things about these Kickstarters I want you guys to know is when I get these fundings, there are those moments I can give the book to a kid. When the family comes up and the dad or the mom said, I just don't have the money. And it's genuine. They're not out buying a sword, but the parents are out of money. And I get that. I come from a background where we didn't have a lot of money growing up. So when I have a moment like that, I can just pass a book and know, Kickstarter helped me so I could do this moment. I can give away a few copies. I can go to Galisandro's Children's Hospital, and I can give some books to the children ward when I get these printed. Because I can do that now because I'm empowered, because you guys are helping me do that stuff by backing us. And any extra money from this project doesn't go in my pocket. We're already putting it into issue number 2. And issue number 2, I'll tell you something no one else knows, Meredith. We haven't said this at all, but I'll give you the exclusive right now. Issue number 2 is going to be about what happens when you meet your heroes and they don't live up to being a hero.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that was one thing. Like, we had a lot of things like, should it be a dentist? Because, I'm terrified of dentists. I should be clear by now. I can't go near them. I have an anxiety attack thinking about it. I'm like, let them all fall out. I don't need teeth. I will gum things to death. I am scared to death. So I was like, let's do the dentist. But everyone else was like, can you do the hero one? Because I'm the writer. And I was like, of course I can do a hero one. And it was funny because I had the story playing in my mind since we finished this last book. So me and Raheel talked last week, and I'm like, you ready? And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, time for issue number 2. Let's get this going. What are we talking about here? Let's do logistics. We had a conversation. He's like, are you ready to write the story? I was like, I'll do it on Sunday. And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah. And I finished it up, and he messaged me that Monday morning. He's like, did you write it? I'm like, yeah. He's like, wow. He's like, how'd you do that? I was like, for 6 months in my mind, this thing was stewing, like the last book. So I had 6 months to really figure out what I wanted to do. And it's one of those things where it's a kid's book. So you don't want it too dark. It's always got to end on a high note. And one point we're going to talk about divorce in this book. And it is something that I want to talk about because it is something that kids face. It's something my own son is going to face in his lifetime. So I have to make sure that I'm going to talk about it. But I want to do it in a point where it makes sense. I don't want to just throw it on there. So I'll be honest, some of the plans we're actually having is that you might not see SuperMom for a while. Because a lot of times it's what kids feel suddenly one parent's missing. And that'll kind of play in, and that'll be a longer thread. So we have an idea for a blueprint to get you 12 issues in 1 year. If you guys could kickstart us every month, and we could get it done. But realistically, we have to go out. We have to go to Kickstarter. Let me tell you, I would love to not go to Kickstarter. I would love to just give the book for free. If I win the lottery, you'll know, because all my comics will be sold for $1, and I'll Kickstart it only for printing. But that's not it. That's how excited I am as a creator. I want you just to read my story. I don't care about the money. I need the money. There's this fake world we were living in, and you all know it's fake now because when a virus came, we all stopped playing pretend and stayed home. We all put the cover over our head and we're like, no, I'm not going out. So, but I have to go into that fake world and where they bet on these things called stocks, and then people are made billionaires. But our nurses are made to go, living where they're getting evicted during this. And, I understand the world needs to be talked about. One of the ways to show that is with our children. Mm-hmm. We need a strong moral base in our children. So our children grow up understanding right and wrong. And as parents that I see you guys parking in handicap spots with your kids in the car, I see you guys playing music you probably shouldn't with your kid around, and, possibly even doing things you shouldn't around your kids. You have to understand you're their role model. Whether you like it or not, you're their role model. And don't mess them up the way you were messed up. You're going to mess up your kids no matter what. It's just a parent.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But don't do it intentionally. Always try to give your kid what you wanted. That's what I live by. There are bad days. Of course I do things I regret right away. I've snapped at Jax because, I'm in pain. I'm in pain all the time. I have a horrible back. A twinge goes up my back. I overreact for a minute. You know what I do? I go take a knee and I bend down to a 5-year-old and I say, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. And that's all we can do. Be the best human beings we can be. Teach our kids morals and have those conversations and try to lead this generation to be better. So let's be honest. The one thing we all agree on is that we're pretty shitty to each other. Why don't we change that? Why do we keep talking about a problem? It's like a person who's like living in a house where the roof is coming down on their head and they're still like, one of these days, I'm just going to fix that roof. And then boom, it hits them in their head and they're dead. Is that what we want? This should be a wake-up call right now. Books like this, I really hope, inspire people.
Mm-hmm. And actually, I wanted to cut in here because Kevin Guillot of NSC Live TV is watching, and there are a couple comments here that we missed. Kevin says, "Rob, is there a local kids hospital that could benefit from this awesome book?"
Yep.
So that's there. Hold on. He wanted to ask how much for the printed book. Well, Kevin, you're going to have to go over to the Kickstarter and take a look because he's got a couple of versions. And he says, I am excited about this book, and NSC will fund you to get to 1,000. Make sure you PM him, Rob, after the show.
Okay.
He's going to get you over to that hump, because wasn't there something, I want to say Luke Stone, and I don't want to speak out of turn. Didn't he have a cover or something? And that was if you reached
1,000.
1,000.
Not only that, but we also, because you don't want to just have something that more people can buy. Hey. You okay? All right, go ahead.
And there he is.
There he is. He's brushing his teeth. So that's the Luke Stone cover for the book. And we're even talking about things we could potentially do with the characters down the line, where we even make maybe an older version for older readers, not like adult. We're not talking adults. We're talking like maybe teens and maybe younger adults, and have a little bit of a grittier version of the stories that we might even experiment with. But for right now, we're stuck right here. We need to get past this point. As he brushes his teeth and just casually walks behind me. And there goes my sister chasing him. So, we need to get everything the way it is. This will come at 1,000. You'll be able to get it. And it's locked in. There's this one reward for $30. It'll get you all the brand new covers. Right now, it's just 3 covers. But if you get that 4th cover, it suddenly becomes a huge goal. So that's motivation. So back it at 30 and get your friends to share it. Get your friends to back it. Suddenly you get an extra book thrown in there, no extra charge. You're also going to get stickers. Hi. Hey, brush your top teeth. We're going to throw in some stickers. We're going to give you guys some stuff when it hits that, because we appreciate it. We know this isn't happening without any of you, and we know that. So
children's books. Why are children's books so hard? I know we're like after hours right now, but I want to ask about this. Why is a children's book or an all ages book so hard to fund? Because this isn't your first Kickstarter for this book.
It's our 3rd time, and we've never done this good. And we're actually going to hit what it was our original goal of $1,000. And so I am so happy that we're getting to there because it proves the point. And I think some of it was my mistake. Originally, I had some bad advice where people, because I do a more adult book. And that, when I mean adult, that is meant for just adults, 18 and over. It's not what you think, but it deals with some more adult materials. It's not anything that you would consider pornographic, but it's a good story and it deals with the human element. Because of that, a lot of people you can't do a kid's book. You can't do it under the same name. That's why tonight I'm under Robert Gregory. And I don't mind that because I don't want a young kid Googling my name and seeing the Rob Andersin show. I'd rather him see the Robert Gregory show. That's fine by me. But then they also said to lie about it in public, which made no sense because people had already known I'd done Jax. How was I going to pull this off? So the first thing I said is I should do it like Bray Wyatt. For those who don't know, in wrestling, there's this guy. He wrestles under Bray Wyatt. He's got like a sweater on. He comes out. He's like somewhat jolly. And then he comes out as the Fiend, who's got this mask. And you look it up. You'll be blown away. And he does this duality personality. And I was like, I should do that, and just play the two parts. And no, you have to separate it. And I took advice from people. And I don't think anyone tried to kneecap the project or try to make it fail. But it wasn't genuine. So that's why when I went to Chuck and I was like, no, I want to do this my way. I want to do it like no one else has done it. If you look at our Kickstarter, we have a video for everything. You guys can literally interact with us. It's a multimedia Kickstarter. It explains it. You get to meet us. Chuck is talking about the team. This is deliberate. This is for you guys to understand and hear humans. It's not just font. I want you to hear the passion. I want you to hear me talking. I want to hear Chuck talking. We would have brought Raheel in, but again, Raheel's for the international one, so we didn't want to cross paths because he might kickstart after we're done for his region. So we didn't want to interact too much because we want it to feel different. You don't want the double dip. You know what I mean? You guys understand. So and he's doing good with it in India. So we know that the feedback has been good. I don't go to a show without giving away a CatDad or selling a CatDad and SuperMom, not getting an email. That was a really good book. My kid really liked it. I just wanted to tell you that. That's how you know it's good because there's nothing else. There's not like this book was this or that. No, it's just I loved it so much I had to reach out and give you a piece of just honest feedback. Great. My kid loves it. When's the next issue? And you've done something.
Here's the thing. I had no idea that you were international as far as this. Do you think that is going to be translated into other languages?
I would love to. If we could make it happen, I don't think there's a language I wouldn't be okay with it being translated into. I think the message is that good. Of course, we would have to stop. I don't think this story would go over so well in a communist China. Just being honest, we would have to look at the culture. And sometimes this might not fit in a culture. And I would be very open to hearing from someone locally and talking to someone locally and then translating it. I would have no qualms about having this. It doesn't have to just be in American. It doesn't have to be in just English. And I say American because in America we write differently than we would in England. That's why. No one wants to admit it, but yes, there's an American English that we do. And the way we speak, we use improper terminologies and even slang. Same thing would have to be changed if we did an only England version, which is less common, but you get what I'm saying. But as far as your original question, why is it so hard to do a kid's book? Because kid books suck. They're always geared towards a kid, and they're not funny, they're not entertaining, and parents don't like them. So they begrudgingly get a book that they hear, or they give their kids money in Scholastic. I can't tell you how many times we've had kids walking through the alley, the artist alley, and pick up the book, fall in love with it, and the parent will be like, "Oh, I don't have money for that." And it's probably not the smart businessman thing to it, but if I see a kid is falling in love with the book, I give it to him. Because you know what? That kid will cherish that book. That kid will hold that book. That kid will grow up loving comics. And who knows, 10 years from now, that kid will pop up and go, you know what book you gave me? I remember you gave me this book. It was amazing. I really appreciated it. And I've been a comic book fan the rest of my life. How could you go wrong? You inspired a kid to read. How important is it to read? And
it's not. I think it goes beyond that. I think when you see a kid like that, and you can read somebody intuitively, I think. And
Yeah.
when you see a kid that connects like that, it's probably the thing that they needed at the right time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm sure there are kids who are getting bullied who aren't telling mom and dad because they're embarrassed by it. Because you know what's mom and dad gonna do? I'll call the school and we'll see about that and we'll make sure that we take care of this. And that has never gone well. Despite what the Goldbergs will tell you, it's never gone well when mommy's called the school. I didn't want my mom calling the school, and I was getting my ass kicked sometimes, and I was a smart ass, and I could take a beating. I learned very early on I could take a beating. And you know what I learned? I could hurt their fists. I had this face right here, and it would hurt their fists if I just stood long enough. But no, kidding around aside, you know, it almost wasn't worth getting your parents to come down. And I had I had a complicated relationship with my mother. And you couldn't win with my mother. There was no winning. She was one of those mothers that no matter what you did, I could have saved a blind woman crossing a street. And if there was like a scratch on a car, that would be the end of the world. I was a horrible son. She disowned me. I was disowned every year of my life. I don't think I was ever owned. That might be why I'm so wild, because I got disowned so often. And I was a hyperactive kid, man. And this is back in the 80s where hyperactive was still slap the kid. You know, just you got to teach him, you know, hit him. And I remember my dad would and I didn't realize it later. He was never abusive. He did the best he could. I was a smart ass and I pushed. I own it. I'm not going to say I didn't. I pushed my father back when I was 12. Not a shot in hell. My dad was not a small dude. But at 12 years old, I was like, I can take him. I think that there are actually boxing matches that have lasted longer. I mean, it was over quick, and he just picked me up and threw me against the wall. And I didn't realize that was restraint from him, because you grow up in your own little bubble, and you're just like, I don't get my dad hits me all the time. When I got older, I was like, he's smacking me in the back of the head because I'm calling him a fat ass, and I'm encouraging it. So like when we're a kid, sometimes we're acting up because we're not getting reached. One thing my dad did, and I'll never forget. My dad used to give me money for comics. My mom would always be mad. My dad was like, no, he's learning to read. He's getting his way. I was very dyslexic, couldn't read. He saw what it was doing. He saw my interest. And he'd sit there and ask me about the comic books. No way, shape, and form did he even understand half of it, but he'd always ask. And then we started watching football together because I started getting into athletic stuff because now I was coming out of my shell. And I was starting to behave better because I had an outlet. I wanted to go read my comics. I had a way to feel better about myself. And I don't think people understand that power that these books have. And I think people forget that a book is an escape. And if you give a kid who's acting like a little crazy, a kid who's hyperactive, if you give them something to focus on and something they enjoy that's just not television, that's just not a tablet, you can inspire them to want to do more. So I went from reading just comic books to reading the Time magazine suddenly at 13, 14, because my vocabulary went up. I was reading the newspaper suddenly. I wanted to know what was going on in the world because these comic book characters were talking about the world. And I'm like, wait, this happens in the world? How don't I know about this? So I would flip through the page. And that wasn't always like current events that they were talking about, but sure enough, some of those things were real. And you started reading history books. And I was actually interested in history for the first time in my life. People don't understand it's a gateway. Comic book is a gateway for someone to absorb knowledge. You're inspiring them to read, and they will read more after that. And if you don't understand the power of comics, it's because you've never picked up a comic that spoke to you. I'm not going to tell you that every comic is for everyone. Someone could pick up CatDad and say, I don't like this. I'm not going to, they just don't have taste. No, absolutely not. It might not be for you. I don't like the manga. All the kids are into manga nowadays. I'm a comic book classic guy. I don't get manga. It's weird. You got to turn it sideways or something. I don't know. I can't get into it. But I would never stop my son from wanting it. I would be like, here's $5. Go buy yourself a manga. You know, like go do it because he wants to read. Anything. He's 5. He wants toys. He sees a book. I buy it. I don't care how expensive it is. I buy the book. We bring it home and we read it because my son has shown interest in literature. And I don't understand parents who are like, well, it's just a comic book. No, it's not just a comic book. This is something that your child was interested in. And you should, as parents, be taking interest in whatever your child's interested in. I'm learning about the Paw Patrol. I know about Sunny Bunnies. I know about Bobo, the rabbit that's weird, and I'll watch it with him so I understand and I can communicate. And this has helped draw words out. And I've been able to show things in the cartoon. And that's what it comes back down to. First, entertaining people. We do get to teach a moral lesson, but it's not in a way that you think. It's more like, Seventh Heaven. And I know Seventh Heaven didn't age well because of the one actor, but there was a time that was a staple. Matlock, same thing. Murder, She Wrote. These were all things that had moral cores. If you really think about the content that we have on television right now, not a lot of moral core stuff. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of stuff for a family to enjoy anymore. That's why when Full House came back on Netflix, it was such a big deal. That's why all these little dramas for families that show up on these like unknown freeform stations on cable suddenly blow up because people want to sit down and interact with their kids on an even ground where everyone's entertained. That was my job. That was Chuck's job. That was Rahil's job. And so far, we have been told by the people reading it that we have succeeded in it. And that's why we want to keep doing what we're doing. We want to expand it. I have no doubt that one day this will be on Nickelodeon or something like it. It is just one of those properties that makes sense that it's going to wind up there. It's not ego. That's not just me. That's also Rahil being in it. That's Chuck being in it. And that's the reaction that we're getting. As people read it, they can't help but I've had people gush to me, literally go, I did not expect that from you. I didn't realize how good this was going to be. I didn't understand what that was going to do for my life. And this is like a 40-year-old who's like, I want to buy a copy for a friend. And I'm telling you, Meredith, we printed 100 copies in August. Chuck got, I believe I just sent Chuck 20 of them, and I gave away like 15 of them. So that left me around, let's say it's 75, just about. I know I'm off a little bit, but call it 75. I have 5 copies left. And this year has been a no sale year. That means from August to, I'll call it November, because I didn't really do anything in December. In just 3 months, I almost sold 100 copies. And Chuck, I think, sold out of every first ones I gave him. They just couldn't stand a table. If we were at a show, and by August, I had done all my big shows. I actually had smaller shows last year after August, because it just made Tampa, and Tampa wasn't the best year. But after that, it was like a New York Comic-Con and very slow shows. But even at slow shows, this sold. And at this point, it's actually outselling my other title, which that has never happened. That other title outsells everything. So now I've got this demographic where if you come to my table, and we have the Advocator which mixes all the different people. So I have popular titles from other people too. This came out of nowhere, and it inspired people. And people brought other people back after buying the book to say, you have to buy this book. And you can't lose at that. And Frank said, can you please post the Kickstarter link, Mayor?
That would be CatDad and SuperMom.com. Right here.
I think it is in the comments, Frank. If you actually just scroll up in the comments, I can put it back in for you. Actually, I know where. I think I have the window still open. I'll come on over and drop it in for you. But yeah, I mean, so kids' books, it's a little harder because parents don't understand the power of what those books can do and the gateway that it can get them to have conversations with their kids. So, and forget it, it's not just my book. I'm not just trying to say something to you to sell my book. I want you to know I do something called Comics in Kids' Hands. It's not Rob's Comics in Kids' Hands. It's Comics in Kids' Hands, because I know the power of comics. Understand, I was a dyslexic kid who went to 5th grade, barely able to read. I was in New York City, so it was promote, and I don't know phonics. I will learn when Jax learns phonics. No clue what phonics is, because they would take me to the small special room, and they thought it was comprehension. I have no problem with comprehension, but they were trying to make me do comprehension things. And again, it wasn't comprehension. I missed out on everything. Didn't learn how to read. And I got to 5th, 6th grade, and they called me, and these are their words. I know it's not politically correct now, but this is from my own life, so this is what I was called, retarded. And imagine being around 11 and being called retarded. And, having to take IQ tests. And this was like a 6-week process. They had me do all weird things. So I was going through that, and I found comics, and comics opened doors to me. And I literally learned to read with a comic book here and a dictionary here. And I learned one word at a time, and I was inspired by that. So comics literally saved my life, probably, because if I hadn't gotten inspired to comics, what if I never learned to read the way I did? I probably would have grown up to be a violent person who was always angry at the world. Instead, I got an escape through a comic book. So it's not just my comics. X-Men inspired me. They made me look at the world differently. I'm sure there are a lot of comic book creators out there who have similar stories to me, how comics have always been there for them. They were their escape. They were something that made them feel less alone. And, even with the X-Men, they were freaks, and I felt like a freak in the world. There was finally somewhere that I could identify with. First couple of comics, I remember the first comic my dad read to me I ever got was Robin getting killed. Of all things, that was it. So for a long time, despite me being a huge Batman fan now, I didn't like Batman because Robin got killed in the comic book. That was so dark for me when I was younger. Of course, you go become a teenager, and you become like, a little shithead. And all of a sudden, you like the dark stuff. You're like, yeah.
Just to put it mildly.
I like throwing people off a roof. I mean, so you gotta open that door if you're a parent.
All right. Thank you, Frank. Thank you very much. That's awesome. He's getting all the peanuts and a sticker.
And a sticker. And that's a good reward because he'll get all of the added covers as they come out at no additional charge. Mm-hmm. So that was going to be one of those, no matter what happens, you get the covers pledge level. So it's actually a really good pledge level if you like the books, and you could definitely give some out. I'll make sure to sign them all for you. But I mean, that's just what it is.
Well, he's got two little ones.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, he's got Frankie and he's got Lily. So they're good friends of mine. And I think they are going to love this book. And I think the entire family is going to enjoy sitting around and reading it and sharing it with each other. So I'm really excited about that.
And that's all we can do as creators. And I always tell people that it's like you can only, control what you create. So create the best thing you can. And especially when it comes to kids, you gotta reach out to them. You gotta find them on their level. I hate SpongeBob. My son loves SpongeBob. So you know what I do? I sit and watch SpongeBob with him. I don't make faces. I don't talk about how stupid it is. Me and him sit and he watches it. Of course, I have my phone on the side and I'm going like this. If that's a good moment because he's cuddled into me and that's what's going to make him happy. Of course, we watched the bird notice right after that. So he's on his phone scrolling. But
yeah,
you want to interact with your kids. You want to reach out to them. And I'll tell you a really quick story about that. Jax would rip every book up. Every book. You couldn't give him a book. That would it. Just 2 seconds later. So I made this comic book and I slowly showed him when he was like 2-3 years old that I was making this. And so when we printed it, we went to the printers. We actually went to where they printed. He got to see it printed. We gave him the book and we got the book and I gave it to him and handed it to him. We expected him to rip it up. Like we had a stack of 10 of them for him because we figured he would just rip them up and go through them. He had that one book for 6 months. It got ripped from use. He would bury it at times. He, to this date, does not rip books. Unless he gets angry every so often with the frustration moment, he doesn't rip books. He doesn't do it anymore because he realizes comics now. And he realizes the power of it. And he points to the words. And he goes, and he'll point to a word and I'll tell him what that word is. And he thought the story was funny. He giggles at it. He'll still, if he sees the book out, he'll pick it up and he'll start looking through it. And, of course, he's the star. He gets to pick any copy he wants. I never tell him he's not allowed. He goes to that kid's been to 100 Comic Cons, 100 already in his lifetime. He is a trooper. He's a sweetheart. He makes friends anywhere he goes. So I got real lucky in the lottery of kids, real lucky. And I have no complaints. And he's inspired me to be a better man. And that's not something I say as like a slogan or a pitch to sell books. It's just the truth. And I'm also mindful that my son will grow up one day, and I'm really hopeful that these will be there for him, and he'll get to hear how much I appreciated our time together when he was younger, and he can see how passionate I was, because I'm sure when especially during his teenage years, when I'm trying to kill him, he might need these moments to remind him that his dad loves him. But, we all lose our kids when they turn into teenagers. From about 13 to about 20, you're more at war. It's spy versus spy.
Oh yeah, my boys they were complete shits from 11 to about 17. And then I started to get my sons back. Then they were starting to get sweet again because they had that freedom. And all of a sudden they were like, oh, I kind of miss and appreciate my mom, you know? So I actually have a really wonderful relationship with my sons. And, you know, we're able to talk about everything because that was the thing. I allowed them to kind of be their own man. And I said, look, at some point I cut the umbilical cord. You have to, you know, whatever mistakes you make, you can't be blaming me. And I think that, again, that goes with the thick skin. It's like, I'm don't accept the bullshit, even though you are my child. I gave birth to you. I am not taking your bullshit. At some point you have to stand on your own 2 feet and you have to say, you know what, these are my mistakes. These are my experiences. And I'm not going to put blame on anybody else but myself because I'm the one who made it. And that is what I hope that I have imparted to my children, is to step up. And, you know, and it kind of, the one thing that I have in my notes, and this is going to have to be saved for another day because I think that we should definitely talk again. Beyond this, I think with just relationships and how dysfunctional we all can be. But, you know, the term man up that I heard, and I don't want to do that tonight because this could be a 3-hour conversation, but that's something that I want you to have in your head, is that I've heard that term when I was growing up and I didn't know what the hell that meant. And, you know, when you don't have the lessons and you don't have somebody telling you what the hell that means, or, you know, or translate that for me, you know, as a child, it's one of these things where, again, your book, and the reason why I'm shilling it as hard as I am is because I feel so strongly about the subject, the topic. And parents, a lot of parents, we don't have the manual. Okay. We are making mistakes. We're doing the best that we can. And some of us, you know, unfortunately, are shitty parents, but some of us really try our best. Okay. I mean, we try, and I try to see the good in that. Unfortunately, a lot of times we are uncomfortable with talking to our children about real things. You know, how do you approach them about being bullied? How do you approach them about sex, your body changing, and all this stuff? And so by having a book like this that says, you know what, you have the power to do the right thing, even though it's not the easy thing to do. It's so powerful to sit there and give that to them if you don't know how to speak to your children about it. It really is. And this is why I say teachers should look at it. Therapists should look at it. Libraries should have it because it is such an important topic. And I don't see this. And you're right about the comic books. Comic books are in just a realm of their own because it reaches that broad audience. And it's not exclusive to just the kids or just the adults. You know, this one really and truly is an all ages book. And normally I wouldn't shill this like I have. I wouldn't be like, go to his Kickstarter, throw some money at him. If you can't throw $1, at least hit the share button. It's the least that we can do to get the messaging out. And because it's so hard, because it's an all ages book, and they're not as popular as the fleshy, you know, flashing the boobs and the ass and stuff like that. It's not easy to get this out in front of people and have them accept it. And it's frustrating for me. And this is why I've been promoting it. I know Brian's been promoting it. You have, Chuck, you know, all of these people who are part of the comic book advocating network. I wanted to pitch that too. Is that we are advocating for I want to say the greater good. Maybe that's a little cheesy, but it's true. And again, I wouldn't be pushing this so hard to my own audience and to my family and my friends unless I really felt powerfully about it, because it did affect me. And, when I read the story, I was one of those that had the tears in my eyes. When I saw his video, when I saw Rob's video, I was just like, oh my gosh, take my money. Because I wanted to support it, and I want as many people to see it as possible, because I feel that strongly about it.
And to Frank's question, I already donated to my local library, my son's school's library, and the main library, and I'm waiting to hear back from them because they said they'd actually buy it. And then all this went down, but I was at a local library event right before this all went down. The last show I did this year was a very quiet, small library show. And one of the curators came by and asked me about the book, and I told her, and she was like, well, can I buy? I would like to buy one for the library. I was like, no. Here, have a copy on me. And she said, well, do you mind if I share this around? I was like, no. She's like, well, we'll be in touch with you. Of course, libraries have been closed since then. But, I have a good feeling that, and she said that if they buy it, they would buy it, out. And I said I'd give it to them at the cost. My printer's local. It wouldn't be that hard. So I hope to get it into the library's hands. And again, like getting a Nickelodeon deal would mean I could get it into more charities. And that's I'm also going to try to work with other charities to raise money, to maybe do printings, maybe do a special cover. This is definitely something I want to push. One of the first pieces of art, I don't think Meredith's ever seen it, is actually a very powerful piece for teenagers. And I'm actually trying to get that into actually schools too, because it deals with identity and how everyone tells you who to be. And it's very hard now as a teenager to even understand it. So, I definitely think that this is a great way to, educate's the wrong word. It's more being there for people and showing them they're not alone. And I want to get this in, I don't want to make millions off of it. I want to have millions of people read it. That's my goal. You know what I mean? If I can make money off of it and keep doing this, then that's the plan. I'm not a person who needs the big house. I would probably donate more of my money because I wouldn't know what to do with it. I'd be like a dog chasing a car, and he finally got the car. He'd be like, "Oh, what do I do? Let me let go of this." I'd be like Forrest Gump. I would just invest it with some guy and be like, "Yeah, here you go," and he'd make the next happen. And I'd be like, "More money? I'm trying to get rid of it." But yeah, this is about like Frank had said, like Teresa had said, like Sarah said, you said, I said, we've all been bullied. We felt it, and it's painful. And if we can do anything to take away that pain and make people feel like they're part of something, then I've done my job. And so is everyone else who has stood up and had conversations about this, because we're going to beat bullying together. Mm-hmm. And I will say this, because I know we're getting to the end of it. It's my favorite line that I wrote, probably in anything I've ever written. And this is how I knew I really was in the groove. So I'm talking to Jax about what to do. And he's talking about not wanting to be a rat and all that. And I tell my son, I'm like, you don't do what's popular. You do what's right. And that is a sentiment that I want to get out to the world, because I think that we're in a celebrity culture right now, and we got to break that. We got to be realistic with kids. We got to tell kids, hey, look, you're not going to make $1 million on YouTube, because even the people who you thought were making millions of dollars, they were scamming. There's like one in a million that even makes a little bit of money. Don't shoot to be one of those people. Shoot to be a nurse. And you know what? I'll say this, because I worked in retail for my entire career before I got hurt. Everyone has always looked down at retail employees. But right now, those retail employees are out there risking their lives, making sure we can eat, making sure we can wipe our ass, make sure we can keep our households running. So never look down on anyone who's out there earning a living. People don't realize this, because I've heard people be like, oh, like the people who are janitors and stuff. My grandmother had a second job before she had strokes, where she went to go clean office buildings in Manhattan. She scrubbed them overnight, took the train back, got home in time to get all of my, not my family, but my mother and my mother's side of the family, breakfast for the morning. Just a very strong woman. So there's no bad job in this world. They're just people who try to make it bad. I don't care. The people at McDonald's right now, they're still open, making sure that we can eat and get a treat every so often. So, no one in this world who's working deserves to be looked down on. People we need to look down on are the people not treating other people right.
Well said. Well said. And Rob, so besides CatDad and SuperMom, where can we find you?
For the CatDad and SuperMom.com will be a normal site once this is over. Of course, the newly minted and rebrand comicbookadvocates.com. It's got all your comic book needs. We're all about the love of comics, so we're getting as many people out there as we can and getting you the best books that we can possibly put on that site for you guys to enjoy.
All right. And actually, I don't know if I loaded that. I'm just going to pop this in here real quick so that we can all see who is part of the network here, because it's really good. I mean, it is a stellar group, and I'm not saying that because I'm on there. But we've got Chuck's Raw Reviews. We've got the Underground Devil, which is also Mr. Andersin here. We've got Brian K. Morris from Nevermind the Nevermore, or Nevermind the Furthermore. It's getting late. We've got Zim Geek. We've got Varian. We've got a bunch of people here, and we're doing good things, truly advocating. And if you missed the conversation that we had earlier at the 4 o'clock, right? It was 4 o'clock.
All the way back then.
Yeah, all the way back to 4 o'clock this afternoon. It's been a really long day, guys. We had really great conversations about indie and, that extra I, what that means in indie. And it kind of opened up my eyes to that. And I am really on board with these guys and what they're doing. And it's kind of funny. I just want to plug that for a little bit because, when you approached me about joining the Comic Book Advocating Network, I was like, I don't know shit about comic books, right? I mean, I've made this very clear. But I love interviewing people, and I am on a journey, and that I'm on a journey. And we're like, well, what about the comic noob? I am a noob. It doesn't matter that I'm nearly 50. I am on this journey, and I want to go from zero to finishing up a comic book. And I'm doing that by learning from people and talking to people and just saying, you know what, let's have a panel and let's talk shop at the, not even the 101. We're at like the 001
You're
level.
beginning, like what is a pencil? That's where we're at. Like, how do I make drawings? That's the level we want to start at. And it's an exciting journey, though. And you only get to have it once. And we don't really get to see a lot of people go on that journey. A lot of people did actually follow me. But by the time I'd started, I was already at 101. We've never seen the journey start as early as yours. And that's going to be fantastic. I'm looking forward to just watching it myself. Forget it being on the site that we're all part of now. I just want to watch. I want to see you grow, and I can't wait. I've read your script. I think it's got definite potential, and I want to see that become a comic book. And I'll definitely be one of those people who so what's the next step? Where's the book? And you'll see. Hopefully, if everything goes right, Meredith will have a book next year at this time that we'll be kickstarting and talking about because she'll have gone through that process. Because I'll be around to be like, so what's the plan? What's the next move? How are we doing? And I'll be checking in with her because she's got that show and she'll be learning.
And that's one of the things. It's like, it's that show. It's going to be weekly, and it's going to kind of hold me accountable. So, I mean, there are going to be goals and things like that, but it's also a learning experience. So it's not going to be like, okay, what is Meredith doing this week? It's really kind of to bring everybody along who's ever been interested in going through this process. I'm sharing my journey, but it's not just about me. It's really to just share it out and say, because all of you, even though you're at different levels, or whether it, professionalism or where you are in the field, or you might be the writer, and then somebody else is the artist, and how you merge and how do you find that core team that you want to work with, and when do you know when to divert and go somewhere else. So, I mean, there's a lot of exciting things, but beyond my show, can you just speak really quickly? Because let's just say we're going to cut this off at the 2-hour mark. I can't believe we've been talking this long. But can you highlight some of the other shows and what they're doing?
Well, you got Indie Vault. Indie Vault, I always say, is they're giving you the hard-earned facts about life and about creating. So one of the cool things about Indie Vault is that I always say this, Varians, they're kicking that gate open that keeps people out, trying to let people get a way in, and I think that's fantastic. And he does that with Zimmerman. And Zimmerman, oh my goodness, this guy is a historian because he's lived it, he's been part of it, he understands it, and he reads about it. And one of his famous lines is to go get an education. I can't talk more highly about that. Chuck's Raw Reviews, exactly what it says, raw. He gives you the honest feeling about it. He'll tell you, like, it's not really for me. This is what I saw good about it. And if he can't find something good about it, it doesn't wind up on his show. That's the raw truth of it. It has to be something that inspires him. Never mind the furthermore, Brian K. Morris right now during this pandemic, every day, 10 a.m., like clockwork, he's out there talking to people about their stuff, not his stuff. 2 hours a day talking about everyone else's creations, forgets to talk about himself. I have to go in every day. Doesn't matter what day it is. Doesn't matter what I got going on. I know I got to stop. I got to drop his 3 links to his stuff, because if I don't do it, no one's going to do it for him. I do got to give credit. A couple of his other friends have started doing it, which makes me so happy because he deserves that. Of course, you got Indie Volt TV and Indie Volt Radio. They're giving a bigger, wider audience to all these amazing people. We got Luke Stone. Luke Stone's working with the amazing Starcross Comics brand. And, of course, he's going to be trying to put together a show where he starts talking to creators and helping them basically get where they want to be. Kind of like This Old House, but in reverse. It's a brand new house that they have to build. So that's what we got. With the Comic Noob, which is going to tell you guys all the stuff that you didn't think you needed to know, because someone's going to be looking at it from a new point of view. When you ask someone like me who's already done a comic book, I'm going to tell you how to get there the quickest way I know how now, because I've forgotten all those little baby steps because I don't take them serious anymore. And all this gets brought together with the NSC Live Television. They have channels for us to put our shows on. It gives you an instant roadmap to awesomeness within comics right now. They also can get you some collectible books, some back issues, some great programming that way. Of course, we have Meredith, who's going to be part of that, not only with the Geek Insider, because the Geek Insider gives you some cool news about all the other stuff that's going on, like all the tech stuff. I actually like some of the tech articles that they got coming out of there. Really appreciate it. Of course, we talked about Comic Book Advocates being a place that advocates for all comics. It's about getting you guys the books you want, and you as the fans get to determine whether the book stays on our site for longer, if we talk more about it or we don't, because your feedback will guide us to bring them on more. And through that, we do Kickstarter Pause, where we look at Kickstarter videos and tell the creator by pausing a video why we paused it and where our interest got lost, hopefully raising the bar for Kickstarter videos in the future. Paper Heroes Charity is a great charity for comic book fans that are getting together to make sure that hospitals and other places are looked out for, and some good can come out of our comic geek culture. You Create Comics is an awesome thing for my good friend Victor Dandridge. He's actually inspiring children to hone in on their creativity. Most of what he's done is donated or given at a very reasonable, if not low price for what it could be, because he's out there trying to help kids read. You got Comics in Kids' Hands, which of course advocates for children being given books to read. Kevin says, tell Rob that NSC will fund his awesome book to the next level because we believe in him. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. We got be more than just a fan, become a advocate for comics. That's right. Even you can be an advocate. All it takes is talking about your favorite comics. That's it. Just talk about them. Speaking of advocating, Advocate Comics is not only home to CatDad and SuperMom, but is home also to The Advocator, which is the poo-poo platter for independent creators coming together with their short stories to get you hooked into their bigger universes. And the OnCon Network is the online comic book connections that bring all these amazing creators together. And the Advocating Channel Network. The channel's on YouTube. The network is something I'm proud of. It's everyone, including Kevin, who's over there. You guys are all awesome. I appreciate all of you checking out. And finally, the Comic Book Advocates Network on Facebook. Drop all of your information about your comics and all that. We try to get as much of it as we can on the site. We talk about it during a show called The Comics News Wire, and we show off everything that's going on in our group. We tell people where to go, your events. Eventually, we're going to have Comic-Cons again, and there'll be a Comic-Con forecast. Fingers crossed, we might be getting close to MegaCon. We'll know next week if there's something mega coming, and that's the Advocating Network.
Yeah. truly amazing, and I am so happy and honored to be a part of it. Okay, so Kevin here says, wasn't sure if you could see me, Rob, so I was asking Meredith to tell you.
I can see the comments. I just can't like play with them at all, and I know that from using this. So, Paper Hero wants to, or wants
you. Paper Heroes wants you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. It's nice to be wanted. But again, we started off. It wasn't. It's not an easy topic. It's one that's really close to my heart. I love CatDad and SuperMom and an Elephart and potato butt. Really, it's just it's something that you can share with everybody. It's something that you can share with your friends. It's something you can share with your kids, grandkids, anybody who's maybe having a hard time and just needs something that is their own. And I'm just so excited to see this. We are so close to getting you to the $1,000 mark. And I don't want to sound like a telethon or anything like that. I really don't. But I really believe in this book. He's got 5 days to go to reach goal. He's got 63 backers. I think that we can get to at least 100 backers. And I mean, if you guys are just throwing $1 at it, that would be great. If you can't, we understand, okay? We don't want to be like, this is your last dollar and we want it. It's not like that at all. Please hit the share button. Share it with your friends. Share it with anybody who you think would be interested in it. Watch the video. This is really a passion project. It comes from deep in the heart. We were at the 4 o'clock, and one of the things that I noticed, and it just felt so good to see that, because it's been so long since I've been able to do that with my own children, was that you had yourself on mute and you had Jax up in your arms and you were just hugging him, and you just could see the love. I miss that so much as a mom of grown kids. It's like, I don't have that anymore, and I miss it so much. So it's really, it was really nice to see that, that love and that trust. There's just so much trust in you, as it should be. And to have this journey and to have this story about, CatDad and SuperMom and Jax, who is named after your son, to carry this story forth, and really exciting to hear that you're going to be expanding the story and building in new issues that we need to tackle, because that's so important in becoming adaptive adults, responsible adults, So I appreciate you, and I really applaud you. And thank you, everybody, for spending about 2 hours. I didn't expect this. I figured, okay, we're going to be in here for like a quick half an hour, and we just kept on talking because the topic is so important. We are all very passionate about it. So thank you so much if you've tuned in. If you're watching on the replay, we really appreciate you. Again, go to catdadandssupermom.com. That it's going directly to the Kickstarter so that you can watch the video. You can see the different tiers. You can see the, what do you call them? The hidden tiers? Is that what you're calling them, Rob? Where he's got, we're going to, when I say, those are for the adults. Those are for the adults. Please, 18 and over, if you will. Because
you want a book for the kid and then a book for you and the missus at night,
Yeah.
we try to give everyone something. We don't want anyone going away.
Oh no, the New York is coming out. Bada bing, bada boom.
New York, I can't help it. You talk about deals, it comes out.
The devil is here. Okay, it's time to go.
Thank you for having me on tonight, though. I really
appreciate it. You guys, share it.
And anyone who shared it, anyone who backed it, thank you so much. Thank you for being part of this, and thank you, Frank, for backing us with the Peanuts reward. Anyone who backs us, I appreciate it. You don't know how much it means to me. I really believe in this project. It's not a line. That's not just something I created. This matters to me.
Yeah. And Kevin says, what I'm saying, NSC will back 187 and get it to 1,000, and we'll be doing more. We appreciate you, Kevin, and the NSC Live TV crew, the networking that we're doing, the marketing and everything. It is truly, again, it's awe-inspiring, and I am so happy to be a part of the network that, we are powered by NSC Live TV. I want to shout that out, because even Geek Insider, we are networking with you guys and bringing it to a greater audience. We want to reach, I think all together, we want 1 million views all together with all the networks, between the Comic Book Advocating Network, with NSC Live TV, with Geek Insider. We can do it, because we're doing good stuff. We are doing quality stuff, and I think that's really important as well. So I'm going to sign off. We're going to hit the end broadcast, and I appreciate everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Follow us on geekinsider.com. Follow us on Facebook. Basically, if you follow me, you can just go through my feed, because I am sharing these guys out like crazy. Please do, because we're building a network and we're doing good things. All right, you guys have a great night. Thank you for tuning in. Rob, you got anything else?
Nope. Thank you for spending tonight with us. That's it. Thank you so much.
Bye.